We're going to look at a few things to target the wrist today if you do have any discomfort within the wrists. Of course, we have some forearm stretches, flipping the palms down towards the earth and the backs of the hands to the earth. But if that's not feeling that useful, I'm going to show you a few perhaps different things. So the first one is a forearm compression, the inner forearm compression with your knee. Right, so this is going to depend on your hip mobility if this is accessible. But you'll place your forearm down with the palm up and then place the knee on top of the forearm. Right, so just that simple kind of pressure, compression. You'll notice probably the fingertips curl in with that. Right, so you can do that on both sides and take your time with it. But if that's not feeling accessible, this one might feel accessible. Sandwiching your forearms between your hamstrings and your calves. And you'll get a hamstring and calf compression as well as the forearm one. But what can be nice with this is leaning from one side to the other, kind of bringing more pressure into one side than the other, then also moving the hands in different ways. Right, curling with the fists, extending the hands, and then rotating the forearm. You'll get more compression and more movement throughout, and you can adjust further down towards the wrist, further down towards the elbow if you're able to. And what might be helpful if this deep squat is tricky is taking something underneath the heels, a rolled up blanket or a mat, so that you can sit down a little bit further. Right, again, so those are just a couple options that you might try to bring some blood flow into the area. If neither of those are feeling useful, we can take a little bit of a nerve glide, freeing up the nerves from the tissues. So you'll extend one or both hands out to the side and pull the fingertips back towards you as much as you can, and then actively push out through the palms. And you should feel some tingling through the tops of the forearms into the fingertips, targeting the median nerve here. That is what can get trapped under the carpal tunnel if you have that issue. Right, so just pushing out, you'll probably feel a lot. And then you can try rotating the thumb down towards the floor. Notice if the sensation changes. Right, you can take that back and forth, or maybe some small motions where you feel it the most. And then if you curl your fingertips in so they are pointing towards you, and then roll the forearms back, probably feel that now more into the top of the forearm. Right, and the key here with all these motions, which you can alternate back and forth, is rather than the arms just hanging in space, if you just do this, you probably won't feel it. You really have to put some tension in it. You have to push out, right? Keep pushing out as you do all these motions and try to create some tension within the tissue so you pull into the nerves as well. Right, last thing, which is usually my first thing to go to, especially if you have a lot of mobility and maybe some instability into the wrist, is a wrist strengthener. Whenever I'm feeling aggravated in the wrist, because I tend to be more hypermobile, I go straight to this and will usually feel some pretty instant relief, but everybody's different here. So you'll take a kettlebell, a lightweight. This is 8 pounds. You can go definitely lighter, but anything you can really hold with the wrist straight. Right, so it's just an isometric, which means the muscles are working, they're contracting, but there's no movement happening. And the goal here is to keep that wrist stacked without letting it turn, curl in, curl out, and just holding until you feel like the ability to stay stable is compromised. Right, if you wanted to add in a little bit more of a global challenge, bring the shoulder involvement into it a bit more, you can send it straight overhead. But if you're really thinking about wrist stability, I'd start with something a little less taxing for the shoulder and just focus on the wrist. Right, and if you set the weight down and release, you'll probably notice the blood flow into that area, maybe a sense of change of sensation. Right, all of those different techniques are really bringing circulation, blood flow into the area so that healing can happen and hopefully decrease in symptoms.